On today's show, ladies and gentlemen, you get a very, very special treat. A lot of you guys know my journey in writing superhero scripts and what I've been through in Hollywood. Well, ladies and gentlemen, I have an award winning novelist that's going to join me who has succeeded in writing Black superhero novels. We're going to get into it. We're going to ask him all the questions so that you can, number one, figure out how to go buy some of his material, but also understand what was his inspirations and how, if you want to become a writer in the Black superhero space, you can do it. All that starts right now.
I'm up early for the dealers come out. Everybody is outside till the killers come out. You ain't eating, you just act full. I'm impactful. Dozen funerals in a month. I got that pull. I will give it to niggas in all rap forms. Ignatius out right now on all platforms.
There he is, ladies and gentlemen. Eddie Dee Williams is in the building. My brother, how you feeling today?
I can't complain. I can't complain. It's a good day. It's a good day. Yes, sir.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, we brought this brother here because he just released another book in a series of just amazingly talented written books that I'm trying to encourage him to get on the big screen, but he says he wants to do TV, which has a place. I agree with it. I can get with it. But this is a brother I've been trying to link up with for a long time because he does great superhero novels. And let me give you a little bit of a sizzle reel before we get into the deep dive of what he's going to offer to you. Take a look at this. It is crazy.
Citizens of Uri City, we are members of the Powered Order Coalition. You have now witnessed our emergence from the shadows as we are making final preparations to become full citizens of this city-state. For far too long, we have cowered under the direction and influence of the unpowered, made to hide behind their fear and only engage in activities that bolster their position of power over us. We pay our share of fares, entertain them with our abilities, rescue them when they are incapable of saving their powerless selves. And yet, they believe that we do not have the right to govern ourselves, let alone them. We, the Powered Order Coalition, stand united to say no more. Your city's champions have been hired by the city to thwart our plans, but even they cannot hinder our resolve. If your champions choose to stand in our way, they will be eliminated.
My brother, Lord have mercy. All that got me ready to go fight the power, boy. Like whoa, let's get it. Whoa. Ladies and gentlemen, do you feel what I'm feeling? I want to go Ric Flair and give him a woo up in this piece, man. You got to get into them stories. So, my brother, let's dive on into this, man. First of all, I know this is a question you get from everybody. Are you related to Billy Dee Williams, who is a Star Wars nerd, black nerd hero? You know I gotta ask.
Of course, I gotta ask. Good. No, so no relation, but funny story behind my pen name. When I graduated in 2011 with my marriage and family therapy degree, the person who was calling our names asked, how do you want us to call you when you go up and get your thing? And so I told them Eddie D. my middle name, my middle initial, Williams.
Right.
And so when I gave him the card, he said Eddie D, like Billy D. I said, yes, like Billy D. And it stuck. Like I was like, okay, that's mine now. You can't. I'm gonna take that and I'm gonna run with it everywhere I go. So anytime I'm doing some type of project, it's always with Eddie Dee Williams. And so that's how it stuck, man. So he inspired the name, but no relation.
Gotcha. Well, man, we know not to disrespect you by trying to relate you to a Hollywood royalty because you are writing royalty.
Me. No disrespect. Absolutely.
Okay, I feel you. So you got to tell us, man, what prompted you to get into writing Black superhero films? Like where did the inspiration come, and how did you know there was a vision that you could get these stories to the mass market?
Well, to be honest, I jumped into it on a dare. My friend
Right.
and I, my best friend at work, named Lavana, we were both watching the show Titans on Max.
Mm-hmm.
And
Mm-hmm.
I couldn't stand how they were doing the Titans. Like these are my heroes. I've been watching these people, watching the cartoons, everything, and they just turned it into a super dysfunctional, barely using their powers type of show. And every week I was critiquing every episode. I can't believe they did this. Can't believe they did that. And so my best
Right.
friend was like, "You think you can do better? Why don't you write something?" I'm like, "Huh, do what? Huh? What you mean?" And for 3 weeks straight, she just kept poking the bear, poking the bear. And so I said, all right, just to get her to leave me alone, let me try this. So from that point, I just started thinking about what are the things that inspired me. I love the MCU, love DC Comics, grew up watching Power Rangers, X-Men, the Beetleborgs, Voltron. And then I grew up watching a lot of cop shows. And so I've always
Mm-hmm.
looking at team dynamics and, how we, battle the bad guys as a group and as a unit. And then a lot of the dramas like 90210, Melrose Place, Girlfriends, and things like that, 101, and all those things just came together as in a head and allowed me the space to be able to say, how do I want to craft this superhero story that's grounded in realism, but they still are badasses. Like they out here fighting crime, but they got super beefed up powers, and that's what came to be the Affinity Saga.
Wow. So, ladies and gentlemen, if you can't tell, me and him obviously are 80s babies. Did you hear that plethora of great 80s stories? The only thing he missed was He-Man,
Oh,
Mask,
yeah, come
uh,
on,
um,
bro. Yeah,
Thundercats,
yeah, yeah, yeah,
Silver
yeah, yeah,
Hawks,
yeah.
G.I. Joe,
Let's go.
um,
Transformers.
A-Team, MacGyver.
Let's
He
go.
he he got all that. I told y'all, being a black nerd is cool as fuck. Don't let nobody try to tell
Let's
y'all that
tell
it's
you
not.
otherwise. We here.
It, we here and look at my man. You can tell my man go to the gym just like I do. Dude, I mean he in there trying to show his cuts for the sluts, ladies. He's not just your normal writer up in this piece. You feel me? so so man, you talked about the story. So let's go ahead and dive on into some of the stories you've done, how people can find them. Give us a synopsis of your latest story and what you think people can expect once they get their hands on it.
Absolutely. To start with the Affinity Theory, Book One, Malcolm, Simone, their superpowered teammates come together to take down a maniacal force of darkness who's hell bent on wiping out the power population and murking one of their own. Is X-Men meets Hancock meets Twilight meets the Avengers. And then in Book
Damn.
Two, we have Echoes, which is in where Malcolm, Simone, and the Elite Defenders unit must stand united against a rogue political faction in a battle for the soul of Uri City. Will they be able to defeat this colossal juggernaut's assault, or will the monsters of their past eviscerate them and seize possession of the soul of Uri City? It's X-Men meets True Blood meets Captain America Civil War. Both of these stories are going to really push the envelope when it comes to storytelling with superheroes, because we're used to seeing superheroes that are gods among men. But in my
Mm-hmm.
world, everybody's got powers. And so it's not about the powers that you have, it's what you choose to do with them. The good guys got powers, the bad guys got powers, the leaders got powers, everybody's got powers. So your powers don't make you special. It's what you choose again to do with them. And so it's going to push you to see just how real even your heroes can be. We all got flaws, all got defects here and there. You're going to love some, not so much the others. And then in Book Two, it's really my ode to all the things that we saw going on during 2020. When you saw the George Floyd issues and you saw, all of the things that were going on during that time. That's really my love letter to him, Sandra Bland, Philando Castile, and those brothers and sisters that we saw just mercilessly, killed at the hands of police brutality. And being able to recognize a lot of those political issues that we heard going on, where people were telling us to shut up and dribble, and all those things. One of the speeches you'll hear is, they want us for our entertainment. They want us for, all the things that we are talented to do. But when it comes to having a voice, oftentimes we're silenced. And so you're going to see that show up in a very big way, but at the same time, still see all the fun that comes from an Avengers movie. And so it's a balance of the realism as well as the just jam up, action packed, edge of your seat thrills that'll keep you guessing with every flip of the page.
Damn. Ladies and gentlemen, the links to get all his goodies will be in the video description, along with the link to him on IG. Show this man some support. And I'm starting to feel like this is my brother from another because he's inspired by a lot of the things that have inspired my writing. And to talk about what goes on in the mindset when you're writing this way, you got to think about the audience and how they may receive it or not receive it, and the criticism you might get for being authentically Black. And so that leads me down this road, because I also do a podcast called Politics of Being Black in America, based on my experiences. That's how I formulate a lot of my superheroes. And so what made you feel like taking on the battle of criticism that you knew you're going to get from those that we're seeing it right now? We're seeing words that are being corrupted by white people as we're tired of Black fatigue. They stole that word from us. It doesn't mean what they want it to mean. What made you feel like your stories could thrive in a world that's fighting against us?
To be honest, it's a matter of knowing that people want to see it and they want to hear it. We see it all the time on the social medias. People are hungry for these stories. They are thirsty for these stories. And more, when we get the pushback, it's just more confirmation of how much it's needed in such a time as this. I told you, I wrote Echoes and finished it in 2022. I would have never known what was going to happen 2024, 2025. Y'all going to read the book and think I'm Nostradamus, because all the things that are going on right now is everything that's happening in that book. And I had no clue that we were going to even get to this point that we are in our time. Nevertheless, I just wanted to tell a superhero story. And so the authenticity that I bring to it, the Blackness that I bring to it, is a culmination of just the rooms where it happened. I was telling this one person who commented talking about why isn't there any diversity in your book? And I said, because I'm not privy to knowing y'all on a deep level like I do my own people. I was graced to be around Black people my whole life. I had a couple of white friends, but I wasn't in those rooms to know what y'all's experience is like, but I know what my experience is like. Also, I was privy to be in a bunch of rooms where there's Black women talking about themselves and talking about their issues and talking about their hairstyles and all these things. I was just, they let me in the room, so I'm just taking notes. This is how they say this. This is how they do that. And so my books are a reflection of the authenticity that I bring. I don't want to guess on what your life is like. I don't want to guess on how things are. I can only speak to what I know. And so a lot of what I've done is, just brought my authenticity to the table. You're either going to love it or you're going to hate it. But at the end of the day, I'm unapologetic about it. All my heroes are Black, and my just about the whole world of Urethra is Black. And I make no apologies for it because I write what I know. And so again, it's a challenge, absolutely, because you have people who are going to come right in and be like, why this and why that? Why you ain't got no diversity and all those other things? And at the end of the day, all I can tell them is, have you seen the Avengers? How much diversity did they have in the original 6? I'm not talking about the whole plethora of them. I'm talking about the original 6. Right. Have you seen Captain America, the First Avenger? How many of us were in that movie? Probably like 1 or 2. And yet we love them. Like Captain America is my favorite MCU character for a plethora of reasons. And I never once complained, oh, he ain't got my skin tone. Now, mind you, we got Anthony Mackie. We got Sam hey, I was first one in them theaters. But I never complained about it being Steve Rogers. And so if we can bring that same love and energy to Superman, Batman, Spider-Man, half the X-Men, and love them why can't we do the same for these characters? Because at the end of the day, they're doing the same thing those characters do, saving the day and trying to live their lives on a regular basis.
And that's fact. And I'll add to your point because I get hit with some of the criticisms you just mentioned, because my stories are heavily African American too. But as writers, we often write about our life experiences, our shared environment. And I've been privileged to be in some of those rooms with crooked white men who are like our president, that is a con man. And what they did for me was tell me all their dirty secrets when they got drunk, thinking that I was drunk too. When I really had water in my damn cup. I wasn't sipping no wine. I had water and I was writing down everything they were saying. And when
I'm in the room where it happened.
bruh, it was down to my damn bicep. Like I'm taking notes everywhere. And that is why I've been able to, because my stories are superhero, but they're political in nature, very similar to yours, because very, very similar to yours, except for you've cornered a place in writing novels that a lot of us would be afraid to take on. And that brings me to my next question. You answered it a little bit. What were your favorite Black heroes from traditional comic books when you was coming up?
Yeah, no. So Black Panther for one, obviously the obvious choice. And then the Black Power Ranger. That was my boy. Like not Jason. Zach was my boy. Day one. Even though I always wanted to wear the red. I wanted to be the leader. But Zach was my boy. I was like, they didn't put the red on him. They let him
right.
the team.
Right.
But a lot of my heroes really were from the cop shows, because my parents were both cops. And so a lot of the people that I looked up to were the cops. And so in Law and Order, Jesse L. Martin's character on Law and Order, that was my boy. When SWAT came out, 8 years ago, Harrelson, Shamar Moore's character, I've been following him since day one. A lot of my Black inspirations actually came from a lot of cop shows. Luther Stickle from Mission Impossible, been following him since the very first one came out 29 years ago. And so a lot of my inspirations didn't come from the superheroes per se, but they more so came from the cop shows that I watched. Because again, both my parents, law enforcement, and watching them go through the systems and having to navigate those spaces in order to rise to the ranks that they got to was really inspiring to me. And I almost made me go into the military before we started engaging in Afghanistan in 2001, 2002. And I was like, nah, man, I'm good on that. But no, a lot of my inspiration actually came from the cop shows. And so speaking of, like, when they started doing the Black Lives Matter versus the Blue Lives Matter, that was a very difficult space to navigate because I'm both Black and blue. And so,
right.
And so that was a very interesting time to be in when everyone's, no, you back to blue. It's like, no, both things can be true at the same time. And trying to have a whole political discourse on that. But yeah, a lot of my inspirations, they came from the cop shows. And once you start reading, once anyone starts reading the book, you'll start to see some of those cop dynamics. Even my daughter said, that one character, Tim Bradford from The Rookie, he reminds me of your main character in the book. I was like, I told you, a lot of my characters are inspired by these cops. And so you'll see a lot of like Sergeant Hondo from SWAT. He'll be somewhere in there. And so a lot of, again, the inspirations really came from the cop shows that I watched.
Wow. You just said something that adds to the intrigue of your writing and the type of things you're writing and how it could affect society. You just said that your parents were cops. And when we had the George Floyd movement, people turned this thing into blue lives versus Black lives matters. When, as you said, we can walk and chew gum at the same time, but that was another situation in which a movement got corrupted in a way that some people allowed it to. To say that Black lives matters is not saying that blue lives don't matter. And I always tell people, when you support breast cancer awareness during breast cancer month in October, does that mean you do not like you? Does that mean you breast cancer is the only cancer you worried about eradicating?
Bro.
No, the fuck it doesn't.
No.
No, no. You hate all cancer, but the one that's affecting your mother is breast cancer, and that's the one you're raising attention to. It doesn't mean that you're happy with all the other cancers. No, it doesn't mean that. It means that the one that is afflicting you is the one you're trying to raise awareness, money, and support to eradicate the problem within the greater problem of all cancers. That's it. That's it.
That's all. And a lot of times, what ends up happening is that, and I say this all the time, in our society, it's not until an issue affects the elite before that issue now becomes an issue that we all need to deal with. We see it with the drug problem now. When it was crack for us, war on drugs. But now that it's affecting suburbs with fentanyl and all that, oh, now we need to do something. We need to get them into rehab and all those things. Like, well, when it wasn't affecting you, y'all are terrible people. There's not an addiction problem, but now that it's affecting the elites. Now we need to make it a national issue, a national crisis. And so a lot of times, these issues that we've been seeing for decades, if not generations, until they start hitting the very top, it's never going to make the kind of noise. It's never going to affect and impact change the way that we want it to. That's why we keep making noise, but also why we've gotten tired, because we make the noise all day, but no one wants to pay attention until it starts affecting. That's why when we see what's happening now with the boycotts and stuff, how we took that step back. It's like, y'all got it now. We tried to tell you back in November's, but just y'all want it. Here you go. And we gonna sit back and where them fans at?
Right. Where them fans at, baby? Wait them. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm going to have to invite this brother to the Politics of Being Black in America podcast. Let this brother sit down, promote his book, and do some podcasting on politics too.
That's good.
You know, we're going to have to do that, man. But this interview is about him, his great work, the mindset that got you there, and the inspirations that got him to it, and possibly inspiring you. And so the next question I have for you, my brother, is this one might be tough. I think I know what you're going to say, but I'm going to ask. Since 2012, what has been your favorite superhero movie since 2012?
Oh, hands down, bro. Hands down, Captain America, the Winter Soldier. Captain America.
Lord have mercy. I'm telling y'all, this dude is my brother from the I'm telling y'all.
We here.
Ladies and gentlemen, he did not know that was in my top 3. He didn't.
Listen,
I ain't tell him nothing.
That's my one. And let me tell you why. Back when they were trying to do the whole cinematic universe, they had Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. That was on TV.
Right.
And Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. was tied to the MCU. So anytime something happened in the movies, it would affect the show. So Winter Soldier happened. Now Hydra is being all up in S.H.I.E.L.D. this whole time. So once that happened, it was the game changer that changed the show. Because now they got to hunt Hydra everywhere because they realize, oh, shoot, S.H.I.E.L.D.'s been Hydra the whole time. And I'm talking about that blew my mind away. I'm like, bro, you mean to tell me this whole time? And it's just the threads that they had pulled on were so, halfway what's inspired me to get to where I am in the saga is, where are the threads? What do we need to hold on to? Because this is going to affect something in book 4, 5, 6. And so that was the game changer. And I never seen that happen in the history of ever outside of the Green Ranger showing up and mollywopping on the Power Rangers back in 96. And so that was an absolute just game changer for me. And so Winter Soldier, man, one of the best movies in terms of like the concept of how is what we're about to do going to affect everything else. And for me, it really set the stage for for just furthering the MCU, the Thanos, and the Infinity Saga, and the whole 9 yards. So yeah, man, Winter Soldier, that's the one.
For everything he said, I 100% agree. But I also agree on top of that, that movie, even if it wasn't interconnected, standalone, it was still incredible.
Brilliant.
I mean, you had every piece of what you wanted in a film, superhero film in that movie, and that was
Yeah.
incredible. And so now that you see, you throwing up the alley oops like you Kobe and I'm Shaq today or something, because that leads to the next question. Tell me, where do you've got this great legacy of writing novels. Where do you want this to go? Do you want this to go beyond books? Do you want it to go to TV? Do you want it to go to movies? What's the next step or the next push in your evolution?
So for me, this has got to get. I got to get the books to 9. There are 9 books in
Mhm.
this saga. So step 1 is to get all 9 books written. Absolutely,
Okay.
I'd love to see this on TV, but I'll take the big screen. I'll take whichever one.
Mhm.
I feel like it'll be better designed for TV just because of the different threads that are going on, and again, having been inspired by the cop shows and those serial dramas, I feel like that's kind of where the direction that the books will go, because I always think of them in terms of episodes. So I'm not thinking
Right,
about it in
right.
terms of movies and things like that. But I would love to see this on TV. Love to see this in a movie format. Talking about, we already got the merch going. Love to see, let's see if we can get a theme park, where we got the
Exactly.
long ride, if we got the Malcolm ride, but no, really, I just want this to go global, man, because again, this is such a great story. It's not just a great Black story, even though it is a Black story. It's just a great story that I think will inspire anybody who opens it up. From the time you open, from the prologue to the epilogue of every book, you're gonna be just sucked into this book. Had people who told me I skipped lunch, I skipped my exercise in the day. I was in church, and pretending to read scriptures, but I was reading your book. I told them, listen, don't get God mad at me because you reading
Right.
my book.
Whoa.
Come mad at me.
Whoa.
You didn't read those scriptures. My book can't go in no.
Man, you can't be in the house of
That's
worship.
what I said. I was like, don't get God
Bruh.
mad at me. So about you lifting my book up and supposed to be reading your scriptures. My book ain't going nowhere. But that's how good the book is. And we strap you in. And the way, again, it's written, you got to figure out what's going to happen next. You got to figure out what's going to happen next. Just like in a Netflix show, how they'll give you that cliffhanger and it makes you want to press play for the next episode. And so I see this just becoming a global phenomenon that people are really going to be inspired by. They're going to find somebody in the book that's going to be their person. They're going to follow that person's story from now to the end of the saga. They're going to love to see what happens with the characters and whose side they're on. Again, even with book 2, you're going to find yourself torn between the good guys and the bad guys, because who's really, fighting for us versus fighting against us. And so there's just a lot of nuggets of wisdom, truth, and inspiration that I feel like if anybody just opens these pages, they're just going to be mesmerized by what they see. And I would love to see us, be on this screen and show people again that we can tell our own stories. Listen, if Black Panther didn't do anything else for us, even though we already had some like Blade and things like that, Black Panther taught us one thing, is that we can tell our own stories and we can tell them well. And so again,
Right.
I see this as being another of the collection of great stories being told that can inspire even the best of us. I can remember going to the mall. I had a Black Panther. It was Halloween, and we went to the mall to do our trick or treat, and I had on the Black Panther costume. This little white kid came up to me and was like, "Wakanda forever!" I was like, yeah, "That's right, Wakanda forever." I even did the accent, "Wakanda forever." And again, we all can be inspired by these heroes. It don't matter what, color, creed, whatever. And so we can be a part of the mix and really show people that, again, it doesn't matter what power you possess. It's all about how you use it that matters the most.
Facts. And when it comes to the storytelling, that is the most important part. And Eddie just hit on it. You got a good story, the characters are going to be great. And that's what he's doing here. And the last point that I want to take from you today to get you out of here, and just thank you again for your time. Thank you for allowing me to introduce you to my audience so they can get copies of your books and push these great stories. What would you tell a young writer that runs up to you and wants to break into writing Black superhero films, or maybe even try to get on the road to doing TVs and movies, what would you tell that young person about the journey you've gone through and what they can expect to see as they're trying to climb the ladder?
Two things. First,
Mhm.
just write. That first draft gonna be trash. It's gonna be trash.
Right.
Let it be trash. Y'all do not want to see what my books look like when I first wrote them. These are garbage. Okay, you do not want to see. Y'all saw them, you be like, bro, don't quit your day job. Quit your day job. So again, just write. Get all your thoughts out on paper, pad, what writing, the computer, whatever, wherever you're using. Get your thoughts out on paper. There'll be time to clean it up after all the first draft is done. So your first draft is not going to be your final piece. Relax. Just write your stuff. You'll get to the editing phase well on after you get done with that. And that's when it's going to get polished and look all nice and neat and all the things. Secondly, get connected. Get connected. TikTok, Instagram, Threads, Facebook, wherever you're at, get connected with people that are in them similar spaces as you. I can't tell you how much I didn't know, but I'm grateful that I ran into somebody on TikTok, on Facebook, Instagram, who was like, hey, have you thought about this? Or, hey, I do this. Do you have questions? And the vast majority of us are not gatekeepers. We want you to win. And so again, don't hesitate to ask us anything, because the only way I know what I know is because I asked somebody. I knocked on somebody's door. I sent a DM. I shot a video, and somebody, gravitated toward. So get connected. The more connections you make, the more you will build your team. And that team will ride with you for as long as, they're successful and you're successful. I found my editor now, who's going to be my editor from now till the end. I found my alpha readers, my beta readers, and we're a team. And we're riding this wave of success all the way to the end. And so again, get connected, because you don't know what you don't know until you know it. And trust me, there's somebody out there who knows more than you do, who can get you where you want to be, probably a whole lot faster than you can on your own. If I'd have known now if I knew then what I know now, when I first started, this book probably would have came out a year earlier than I thought it would, even though it came out a whole lot faster than I thought. But if I knew then what I know now, I could have got it out a whole lot faster than that. And so again, get connected, because somebody out there has already done all this work, and they're willing to tell you how to get there if you act.
Ladies and gentlemen, that is a lot of the advice I often give. The learning curve and being connected, because great things happen in teams. And in order for you to achieve success, you are only as good as the people you put around you.
That's right.
And then you attract good people when they see you doing good things. And Mr. Eddie allowed me to attract him. He's doing good shit. Hopefully, I'm gonna be attracted that way, because we can do good shit together, as he just said.
Yes.
Together. And you hit on a great point. We oftentimes are not gatekeepers in this space. We're not, because we want to see our stories out there, and that's the point of why we put this up here. So Eddie, just again, thank you so much for your time. Tell the people how they can get your content, your t-shirts, how they can find you. Just let the people know everything.
Absolutely. Everything that we sell, from books to merch, you can find it at the affinitysaga.com. That's where the Affinity Saga store is located. Everything that you see, I got my shirt on right now. I got books behind me. Everything that we sell is right there in that one-stop shop, the affinitysaga.com. You can also find all the books on all the major platforms that sell books, like your Amazon, your Walmart, Barnes & Noble, Books A Million, bookshop.org, Thrift Books. You can find all the books there. We have them in several formats. You can find me on social media everywhere under the banner of Eddie Dee Writes. That's Eddie DeeWrites. You can find me everywhere on social media in that space. And again, I'm not a gatekeeper. You have any questions, comments, or concerns, holla at your boy. Because again, we there's too much sky out here for us not to shine together. So again, I want to see y'all win. So if you have any questions, holla at your boy, and more than happy to accommodate in any way that I can.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, that's going to do it for us. Do not, and I repeat, do not be surprised if you see this brother back here very soon. He dropped gems that are so shiny. Hell, I'm about to go blind up in this bitch. He dropped some good ones on us, and we need that kind of energy as we're dealing with the things we're dealing with politically. That's going to do it for this video. Don't forget to like it, comment, subscribe, go buy those books, go check my man out on his social media. And until my next Sexy as Hell video, we out.